Hello, and welcome to Monarch Housing Associates Training for NJ Counts 2014, New Jersey's point-in-time count of the homeless. This session will discuss how to use the NJ Counts 2014 paper survey tool for conducting interviews. Additional information and resources about conducting the sheltered count using HMIS, entering data from the paper survey online, and more can be found at Monarch Housing's website, monarchhousing.org. Your primary source for guidance about NJ Counts 2014 should be the data collection guide that has been distributed to each county and continuum of care in New Jersey. This guide provides comprehensive assistance regarding how to use the survey and will be referenced throughout this presentation. References to the user guide can be found in the top margin of this slideshow. If you have not received the guide from your agency or local PIT coordinator, you may download it at Monarch's website. Another tool that comes in handy when conducting the NJ Counts 2014 paper survey is the point-in-time quick reference guide that includes key definitions of terms used in the survey and also brief reminders about how to fill out certain survey questions. The quick reference guide is one sheet, front and back, and should have been distributed by your local PIT coordinators. If you do not have a copy, find it at monarchhousing.org. NJ Counts is conducted each year to provide a snapshot of who the homeless are, where they find shelter, and what factors contribute to their homelessness. This information helps communities plan to provide more targeted supportive services and housing services to better meet the needs of homeless persons. The point-in-time count is also required in order for communities to receive federal funding for preventing and ending homelessness from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. NJ Counts 2014 will be conducted on the night of Tuesday, January 28th to Wednesday, January 29th, 2014, between the hours of 10 p.m. on the 28th and 10 p.m. on the 29th. All paper surveys must be completed within this time frame, asking about where the respondents spent the overnight period from sundown on January 28th to sunrise on January 29th. If your community conducts an overnight count, it must be only on the night of the 28th, beginning after 10 p.m. When conducting a survey during an overnight count, be sure that you are asking respondents about where they spent that night, the night of January 28th. If you are conducting surveys during the daytime, be sure that you are asking about the previous night and only conduct daytime surveys on January 29th until 10 p.m. Because HUD provides so much of the funding that supports local efforts to prevent and end homelessness, it is HUD's definition of homeless that is used for the point-in-time count. According to HUD's definition, a person should be counted as homeless if that person sleeps somewhere not designed as a regular sleeping accommodation for human beings, such as a car, park, abandoned building, bus, train, street, or sidewalk, or if that person lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, has a supervised emergency shelter, safe haven, or transitional housing dedicated solely for the homeless as their primary nighttime residence. This includes domestic violence and youth shelters. A person who meets the definition of homeless under Part 1 of the HUD definition is considered unsheltered, while a person who meets the definition of homeless under Part 2 of the definition is considered to be sheltered. The point-in-time count collects information on those who meet the HUD definition in order to meet HUD's requirements. However, NJ Counts 2014 will also collect information on those who may not reflect HUD's definition of homelessness, but may be at risk of homelessness or precariously housed. A person may be surveyed and counted as at risk of homelessness if that person is currently living doubled up with another household, living in illegal units, living in overcrowded units, scheduled to be evicted with no subsequent residence, being discharged from jail or a health facility with no subsequent residence, or residing in a motel which is being paid for by the household. It's important to note that for NJ Counts 2014, not all homeless households will be counted using the paper survey. This year, the sheltered homeless count will be conducted using primarily New Jersey's Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS. Please remember the following data collection methods that will be utilized for each type of homeless household under the HUD definition of homeless. This year, all unsheltered homeless households will be counted using the NJ Counts 2014 paper survey. Sheltered homeless households who are not in HMIS should be counted using the paper survey. However, if a household's information is in HMIS, you should not conduct a paper survey with them because they will be counted using New Jersey's HMIS data. Agencies must update HMIS for these households to accurately reflect the night of the count. If you are assisting an agency for NJ Counts 2014 and you are unsure whether information about the households you will come into contact with is currently entered in HMIS, ask agency staff or your county point-in-time coordinator for guidance. Finally, all households who meet the HUD definition of at risk for homelessness will also be counted using the NJ Counts 2014 paper survey. When completing a paper survey as part of NJ Counts 2014, there are a few important guidelines to remember. First, it is critical that only one survey is conducted per household. A household is defined as any group of persons who would be housed together if they were able to obtain permanent housing. Surveys should be completed by the interviewers alone, and under no circumstance should the survey be given to the respondents to fill out on their own. Interviewers should ask survey questions to respondents and fill in the paper survey form according to the answer given. When asking survey questions, interviewers should read only the questions in bold text and not read all of the answer options to the respondent unless the question says to check all answers that apply. For questions that say check all that apply, please read the respondent's all answer options so they can answer regarding each one. If no response is given to any question on the survey, please leave the answer blank. The only exception to leaving answers blank for no response is for question 6B, regarding the respondent's age, gender, race, and ethnicity. For these fields, please fill in your best guess if the respondent does not answer. Do not guess answers for other fields or for other household members who are not the respondent. If the respondent is unsure about the demographic characteristics of other household members, please ask them to give their best guess for these fields. Finally, if no response is given for the first survey question, do not continue with the survey because the other information will not be useful to the point-in-time count if the respondent's homeless status is unknown. When conducting survey interviews with respondents, be sure to introduce yourself and ask if they have already taken the survey. If you are still unsure if they have taken the survey after asking, conduct the paper survey with them, but note the name of any other agency or program the respondent may have mentioned participating in. When interviewing respondents, be sure to let them know that their answers are anonymous. Conduct the survey in a quiet, private manner. Try not to ask compound or multiple questions at once. Use the survey questions to guide the interview. Ask questions to clarify if necessary. Be friendly, respectful, and polite, and be sure to thank the respondents for their time because they are helping the community by their participation. Now we are ready to move on to the survey itself. As you can see, this is the top of the paper survey's first page. If you do not have a copy of the survey to reference, you can download it from monarchhousing.org. Before beginning an interview with a respondent, be sure that the top of the survey is filled out. This includes the 5-digit site code that will be provided to sort survey results by site, the name of the county where the survey is being administered, if the survey is being completed by an agency, the agency name, and if the respondent is participating in a specific agency program, enter the program name. The code, county, agency, and program fields should be filled out for all paper surveys by local PIT coordinators for each participating agency and count site before they are distributed. This way, When PIT coordinators send surveys with the appropriate identifying information for each program already entered, identifying the site where the surveys were conducted will be consistent. Now, beginning with question 1, the first 6 questions of the NJ Counts 2014 survey are high priority questions. It is very important that you get complete responses to these questions. Question 1 asks, where did you spend the night of Tuesday, January 28, 2014? Please only read the bold text to ask question 1 and do not read the answer list to the respondent. Then, check only one box on the answer list that best corresponds to the answer given. In order to answer accurately, it is important to know the differences between the following definitions of emergency shelter, transitional housing, youth shelter, permanent housing, temporary rental assistance, and safe haven. If you need to review these definitions in detail, pause this video or refer to the NJ Counts 2014 Data Collection or Quick Reference Guide, which both have sections with all the definitions. Please be sure that interviewers classify respondents' answers accurately and consistently. This means being sure that all interviewers know, for instance, whether the program a household participates in is categorized as transitional housing or permanent housing. For question 2, in what town did you spend the night? Write legibly the town, county, and state where the respondent stayed. If the respondent is housed through a housing program, ask for and record the names of the program and agency that provided shelter to the household. Remember that the location where the survey is being conducted is not necessarily the program or agency where the respondent stayed. Also, remember that the respondent's household may not be part of any housing program. If this is the case, leave these fields blank. When asking question 3, how long have you been in your current living situation? Again, please only read the bold text and then check the box that best corresponds to the answer given. If necessary, clarify with the respondent that this question is asking only about his or her most recent continuous living situation. So, for instance, if the respondent has been living on the street on and off for 2 years, but only lost his or her housing most recently about 2 weeks ago, check the answer 8 days to 1 month. If the respondent is in a shelter or transitional housing program, their length of stay in the program can be considered to correspond to their length of time in their current living situation. Question 4 asks, if you have been homeless less than 1 year, has there been another time within the past 12 months when you were homeless? If a respondent has been homeless for more than 1 year or is not homeless, you do not need to ask them this question, and you should select NA for not applicable. Check yes if the respondent has been homeless for less than 1 year and has had a previous episode of homelessness in the past 12 months. Note that this does not apply to persons that have had one continuous episode consisting of multiple consecutive nights of homelessness that has lasted for less than 1 year. So, if a respondent has experienced just one continuous episode consisting of multiple consecutive nights of homelessness for less than 1 year, check no for question 4. For question 5, have you been homeless at least 4 separate times within the past 3 years? Check yes if the respondent has been homeless at least 4 separate times over the past 3 years. Check no if the respondent has not experienced 4 distinct episodes of homelessness during those past 3 years. We move on to the bottom half of page 1 of the NJ Counts paper survey with question 6, a 2-part question on household information. The survey question for part A, household size, asks how many adults and children were homeless in your household on the night of January 28, 2014. Make sure to enter a numerical value for both the number of adults 18 and older and children ages 17 and younger that were homeless in the household. Remember to include the respondent in the household count, and only count household members that shared the identified sleeping arrangements with the respondent. If household members spent the night in separate sleeping arrangements, do not include them on this survey. If there are either no adults or no children in the household, enter 0 in the appropriate fields. Part B of question 6 asks, who was homeless with you on the night of January 28, 2014? This section will provide important demographic information, so fill out this table as completely as possible for every member of the household that shared the identified sleeping arrangements. Just as in Part A, if household members spent the night in separate sleeping arrangements, do not include their information on the survey. If the respondent is unsure about the information for each member of his or her household, please have them give their best guess about that information. If the respondent gives no response for himself or herself with regard to age, gender, race, and ethnicity fields, you may guess these answers for the respondent. Do not guess about other demographic and personal characteristics fields for the respondent, and do not guess answers for other household members. If a respondent gives no response for other household members, try to at least get the age and gender for each member of the household. The first field of demographic information is relationship to head of household. As you can see, the word self is already entered on the first response line. For the purposes of this survey, the respondent with whom you are conducting the survey is considered to be the head of household. Answers in the relationship to head of household field then should give every member of the household a designated relationship to the respondent. For instance, if a female respondent has a household including herself, her husband, her father, and her son, her relationship to head of household answer would be self. The answer for her husband would be spouse, her father would be parent, and the answer for her son would be child. The other potential answers for relationship to head of household are sibling, friend, relative, or unknown. When asking respondents for information such as first initial, middle initial, and the first 2 letters of their last name, you may need to assure them that the information will not be used to track or identify them. The information given is confidential and will only be used to distinguish between household members and to avoid duplication of survey results. If a respondent or household member has no middle initial, leave this field blank. For age, make sure to enter numerical values only. For gender, enter one of the following, either F for female, M for male, or TR for transgendered. For race, please enter one of the following options, B for Black or African American, AI for American Indian or Alaska Native, AS for Asian, PI for Pacific Islander or Native Hawaiian, WH for White Caucasian, or MR for multiracial. If the respondent is Hispanic, inform them that they must choose a race from the list above in addition to identifying their ethnicity as Hispanic. Then, for ethnicity, write either H for Hispanic or NH for non-Hispanic. Again, if the respondent gives no response to these fields for other household members, NJ Counts asks that you at least try to ascertain the gender and age of every household member. For the household characteristics section, it is important that you know some key definitions so that you can help respondents provide accurate answers. To study these definitions in detail, see the NJ Counts 2014 Data Collection Guide or Quick Reference Guide, or pause this presentation. In the Household Characteristics section, please make sure to ask about each individual characteristic for each member of the household, and make sure to check all characteristics that apply to each person. Be sure to check None Apply if none of these characteristics applies to an individual. Only leave all fields blank if no response is given regarding what characteristics apply to an individual. When inquiring about the household characteristics of each individual, be sure to ask a direct question about each characteristic for each household member. For instance, ask specifically, are you a victim of domestic violence? Are you a veteran? Etc. Then, when you've filled out both sections 6A and 6B, check that the number of household members in 6B matches the number of adults and children listed in question 6A for household size before moving on to question 7. Question 7, found on the left top side of the paper survey's second page, asks, where was your last permanent address before becoming homeless? Write the town, county, state, and country of the respondent's last permanent address. If no response is given, leave this section blank. For question 8, what was your residence prior to your current living situation? Check only one option. Read only the bold question and do not read all answer options to the respondent. If you are unsure what any of these answer options means, refer to your NJ Counts Quick Reference Guide or the Data Collection Guide's Section 5 on definitions. If the respondent's answer is not listed, check Other and describe their response in the space given. On to question 9 at the bottom left side of the paper survey under question 8. Question 9 asks, which of the following do you or anyone in your household receive? It is important to distinguish between SSI, which is Supplemental Security Income for low-income individuals who are disabled, blind, or over 65 who haven't worked for long enough to qualify for SSDI. SSDI is the Social Security Disability Insurance Program for workers who have worked and paid Social Security taxes who become disabled before retirement age. TANF, or TANF, is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which is sometimes called welfare. Not to be confused with SSI and SSDI, Social Security benefits are retirement benefits for workers aged 62 or older who have paid into the Social Security system for the requisite number of years. General Assistance is a state-level welfare program. For this question, ask respondents if they have each individual source of income and each non-cash benefit on the answer list, and check all that apply. Be sure to read each option to the respondent. If the respondent says that he or she has no source of income or is receiving no government benefits, be sure to mark this field. Back at the top of the right-hand side of the survey, question 10 asks, what is your monthly household income? Write the respondent's monthly household income on the line given. This should be the total income of all household members, including all earned income for household members who are 18 or older, and all non-earned income for household members 17 or younger. Make sure it is a numerical value. For question 11, would you or anyone in your household like to receive any of the following services? Ask respondents if they would like to receive each type of service on the list, and then check all that apply. Be sure to read each option to the respondent and check the appropriate boxes. If the respondent's answer is not listed, check Other and describe. The final survey question is question 12, which asks, what was the primary factor that contributed to or caused your current living situation? Please only read the bold text to ask question 12 and do not read the answer list to the respondent. Interpret responses to this question and classify them as one of the answers listed. Check one only. And if the respondent's answer is not listed, check Other and describe the answer. Be sure to thank respondents after the interview. They're key to helping the community understand how to better help those in need. After completing the survey, make sure that all answers are complete and legible. Then, Turn in all completed surveys and make sure that your count site enters and submits information from all paper surveys into the NJ Counts 2014 online survey tool using SurveyMonkey. After data has been submitted online, turn in all completed surveys to local point-in-time coordinators. For guidance on submitting data online, see the NJ Counts Data Collection Guide, Section 8, page 14, or watch Monarch's Online Survey User Guide training video. If you have any further questions about how NJ Counts 2014 will work in your community, the best person to contact is one of your local point-in-time coordinators. Thank you for participating in NJ Counts 2014. For a copy of the 2014 Data Collection Guide or to access other video and print training materials, visit monarchhousing.org. If you experience any problems with the materials or the survey, you may email Monarch Housing Associates at njcounts@monarch.org. If you experience any problems with the materials or the survey, you may email Monarch Housing Associates at njcounts@monarchhousing.org or call 908-272-5363, extension 228. Monarch looks forward to working with you to make the 2014 point-in-time count a success for all our communities. Thank you.